Hey everybody, this is Rydo and we're back to control. So we're here at the main area. I loaded in, then had to go to the bathroom. I didn't do anything. So that'll just be content that is lost. And this will be the next real episode. The thing that that you make obvious now, well, in this area I can't even fly because my gun has put away. Like I can't even use that ability. But the fact that we have the flying ability in general has opened up this obvious point that if we were to look at everywhere in the map, there's really only a couple of places where flying really is a standout ability that's really helpful, and then there's a considerably large amount of places that have been forced into small, narrow areas. At best, you have something like this where there's a second floor or maybe a third floor, so you could kind of easily, now that you can fly, move from one floor to the other. But even that level of elevation is a little high for your flying ability. Meanwhile, this game really feels like it should have been episodic, where you go to different locations, some very wide and open forest areas, haunted house areas, post office area, mall area, a school area. Like, you could go all kinds of different places if you had more budget, but because they E3'd themselves, which is a new phrase I'm coining here, they showed the flying so early that now the entire game has to be built around constricting that flying. And like, if we just look at the fast travel locations, I'll point out the places. So the NSC core power plant for maintenance and the Blackrock quarry are kind of the only places that flying makes any sense for maintenance. In the executive area, unless we're actually going to go into the hotline chamber again, which I bet we never do, I don't think that there's a single place that really makes a lot of sense to fly. There was in the research department, not the research department, but the other floor. We'll talk about the research department right now. In the research department, we have two very large blacked out areas on the map. Maybe those are sections for flying. Otherwise, there's kind of nothing on this floor at all that works with that flying ability. In the containment, the Pentopticon, what clearly was designed around having the flying ability. The turntable might have something designed around the flying ability when we get to it, but that's pretty much it. So any place that's somewhat large and round probably is a flying area, and everything else is this extremely constricted area. So it would have been better without giving us the flying ability, quite frankly. By the way, I found on the main menu that you can change mission select. So 6 of the about 10 missions that we've done so far, we could go back to and do them. I don't know if there would be much of a reason. I'm assuming that you're probably suited to maybe go back to those missions and get more item drops, and you might have the same board countermeasures enabled in those missions, so you could go back and for instance do the executive killing Hiss in the executive sector. It would be, I think it's going to be kind of hard to get that quest done without doing a mission select. But you can't go back to Welcome to the Oldest House. The first mission you can go to is the Oldest Caller, then Director Override, then Brother's Keeper, then some of these definitely you can't select. But also, I still am standing by my idea that still trying to fly around here. There's apparently some conspiracy, and this Agent 4 believes that there was a secret organization inside the Federal Bureau of Control that Trench was a part of, the former director, that caused all of this. Now, it's weird for a clandestine organization to have a conspiracy theorist employee work there. We also have some weirdness with just skins on characters. Like, there's a lot of repetitive skins when you walk around here, excluding the people in helmets. Like that's a good move to have 3D models. Still trying to get our level 6 containment clearance, and there is some weirdness also with these copyrighted music, because that idea has been forgotten completely. Like, all the copyrighted music seems to be on radios, seems to be on the executive floor. Which, again, I don't know why any of that's in the game. But yeah, with the flying, you also only have a certain amount of time, so you're tethered to where you can go and how far you could go. And you could do that in an open world, it would just take a lot more resources. So it just feels like Remedy didn't have the resources or the budget for this. And honestly, the way Control is playing out, I wouldn't have been surprised if they had at least in the first couple of years of development intended to have 8 floors or 8 locations, twice as much content, twice as much everything, and they had to scale it down. So we very well may be seeing half of the level designs, half of the story, half of the game. There's certainly enough objects of power and altered objects being mentioned. Let's talk to this guy.
I don't think I ever told you this, but I was actually on the path to being a ranger once. Did the whole boot camp thing. Even got rookie status. Anyway, not the point. My own ranger squad was a great bunch. There was 6 plus me. Remus,
I still
Hazard,
hate these
Joe,
animations.
Guy, Heston, and Thompson. They were supposed to get back from an expedition yesterday. We had beers and wings planned. Problem is, they weren't here when Darling handed out the HRAs.
Then they had nothing protecting them from the hiss.
You see, they prepped for the worst, but I think that we're already past that. We all wore these pouches around our neck, and I really don't want the hiss to get them. Could you find them for me? The squad would have come back through maintenance, but they probably spread out from there.
I'll keep an eye out for them, Arish. And I won't let them stay hiss.
So we have a new quest where we're collecting dog tags, effectively. I guess we could ask a bunch of questions here. We might as well.
What's the deal with Blackrock?
Oh, fuck. Don't get me started on Blackrock. You know, ever since research found out that it blocks paranatural stuff, they have just been parading dangerous materials in and out of the fucking quarry. Fucking lab coats, man. Love making my job harder.
Sounds like there's some tension between departments.
Still, at least the quarry's got a good view of the night sky. You know, me and Salvador used to have after-work beers down there.
I would think that you would probably have some requirement of sobriety for a clandestine organization. Like, I'm sure spies drink alcohol when they're out on missions, but also I would want something like the Federal Bureau of Control to say, hey, let's not have employees getting potentially drunk and loosening their lips and spilling secrets.
What do you know about Dr. Darling?
About as much as anybody, I guess. Head of research, loves to hear himself talk.
We're
All
way
those science
too
types
late into the
absolutely
game
do.
to start
He's been acting a little
suspecting
bit psycho recently. Although HR told me not to be
anybody
that
other
word,
than
so-
Darling.
Everyone thinks finding Darling will lead us to the answers. But if he's completely lost it, then what help could he be?
Yeah. The game is definitely pointing towards Darling being a bad guy. Maybe not the main bad guy, but thinking that some of the other departments might be working against each other would be crazy. It'd be crazy to start hinting that now unless there's another 10 hours of gameplay.
You're security, right? Do you work with Rangers?
Not often. Rangers are specially trained in threshold reconnaissance and ground zero AWE response. Security is more interested in the dangers inside the Bureau.
They must see some weird stuff out there.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So two
Every
separate
week
security
they are tackling
groups.
things that were previously unknown to the human experience. Most Rangers, they retire due to cognitive collapse. I looked up the medical definition. Not fun.
So that's a weird way to run your organization, to have internal security and external security and not have them under one controlling management, or at least have them cross-train. It seems kind of ridiculous.
How does the Bureau handle thresholds?
Handle might be a bit of an optimistic way to put it. Marshall sends her Rangers in to map them, check growth rates, locate epicenters, take samples, measure stuff, basically.
Sounds like he's done his homework.
Now, down in maintenance, thresholds are used just like any other tool. Lab coats mine black rock from one, maintenance siphons water from another. We use it for pretty much everything, except drinking.
Why don't you drink it?
Do I even want to know?
Yeah, a lot of time we find these little chunks in it. It's pretty gross.
I didn't want to know.
I don't even know what they mean by thresholds there. Like, the story has gone in so many different directions, and because I'm not reading any of the text, I think thresholds might be portals to different dimensions, and it might be where the mold is coming from, but I don't even know.
What do you think of Marshall?
Marshall? Marshall's a fucking badass. Rangers could not ask for a better leader. She's a little, intense, but given the stuff she's seen, I'm not surprised. She does have a bad habit of disappearing, though.
Where does she go?
Last time she vanished, I did some digging into the security logs. I found camera footage of her entering the quarry. She was down there alone for days. Now, typically that's not allowed, but Marshall is kind of above the rules.
I wonder what she finds so interesting in the quarry.
So we're still getting the internal dialogue.
I have to go.
Me too. You're not the only one who's busy, you know.
I wanted to mention, we're doing a little bit of a different experiment with having two video cards here. Before, all the physics was going through the GTX 970 graphics card, which might have been slowing down loads a little bit, maybe not. I wonder how far I could go before this would start giving me trouble. And I kind of wonder if there are new pickups that are spawning, or if there was just a pickup I missed. Probably just missed a pickup.
Marshall abandons us. I'm sick of no one telling us what's going on. Information's
Yeah,
always been on a
this
need-to-know
one
basis.
head model, the
Why
gray-haired
fucking know?
guy.
I'm an upper-level executive, damn it.
That's another collectible. Here's a level 4 door. We haven't been in here. Look at all these post-its.
He's the enemy, plain and simple.
Post-its all over the place. So physics is what would control all the objects, or a lot of the objects, from bouncing around. Famously, it's when something gets stuck in the ground and then shoots off into the sky with way more power than it really should have. So yeah, having a 970 graphics card, which is way slower in almost every way,
I heard some Rangers saying you saved them in maintenance.
run the physics while all the texture rendering and the rest of the game is running on the 2080, might have been causing some of those lags that we had been seeing It might have been causing some of the slowdowns that we've been seeing. But then again, it might not have been causing any of that, and we may continue to see lags once we start actually getting into the game. Yeah, there's that gray-haired guy again. Still don't know why this copyright music is here. It's such a bad implementation of music in general, because the hiss and that the audio of the hiss plays an important role telling the story, that unless you're willing to turn off the mumbling and the rambling of the hiss creatures, you can't play any music. And every walk and talk we've seen, every boss fight we've seen, would actually potentially work better if there was some soft music playing in the background. But often in video games, even if there is music, video game music is so different from regular music that you wouldn't want to use copyrighted music. You'd want to use video game music, which is traditionally so benign and forgettable that you can play it over and over again without anybody even recognizing that it is getting repeated an incredibly large amount of time. That's enough messing around, though. We've looked for all the collectibles. We're going in here. Dylan has walked in and surrendered himself. He's supposedly been affected by the hiss, but not like everybody else. So we're going to meet our brother and see what goes on here, and we'll probably get a fancy cutscene.
Resonance emitted from the HRAs is purely antithetical to every variant of the hiss signal.
Where's Dylan?
How did Darling create it?
Yeah, we are getting more collectibles every time we come into this area. So, if you hadn't seen your brother in over a decade, I think there's a good chance you really don't know him too well.
It's happening. After all these years, Dylan is here.
I wouldn't be surprised if this was a lie
But
and
am
he
I too
wasn't
late?
here.
How is he?
Where is
I
he?
need to know.
He's clearly been affected by the hiss, but it's different than any other manifestation we've recorded. Maybe what makes you so special is genetic. He was a prime candidate. Or maybe it's Polaris protecting him, something else affecting the situation. I need to run tests. He seems more in control, more present.
I want to see him.
My brother? Or is he?
Of course. Now, Marshall set up an HRA-warded cage to contain him. It's on the upper floor, up the stairs.
Okay, I need to go.
Jesse, be careful.
That was a rather pointless conversation. Go to the boardroom, talk to her. We could probably see if there's any new lines of dialogue
Hi,
here.
Jesse.
Too, while we're here. We could ask, I guess, about all this stuff.
I visited the quarry. What's the plan for all that black rock?
The Bureau has used BlackRock almost exclusively for containment purposes. See, I say, branch out.
We already
Instead
heard
of
this,
boxes, help.
so we'll
Instead
skip
of
it.
blast shields, none. No. I have so many slices.
B, you have to
I've been trying to get
press
those.
B
Wow, I did not
for every line of dialogue.
This place is looking good. Arish is making real progress around here.
Right? This place is a fortress. And with him taking care of operations here, I can spend more time...
Yeah, we've already heard
so
this
No,
too, so
Buzzy.
hit B.
I want.
So this probably we've heard too.
How is HRA production coming along?
Better than expected. We've already made enough to get people out of a couple safe rooms. And they're
Yeah, we've already heard that too.
I should be going.
So there was no
Enjoy
new
your
lines of dialogue. There's
Oh, I will.
there was no reason to have well, there's a reason to be able to repeat lines of dialogue if it's important information. Unfortunately, I would argue that none of the information any of the characters have said has been particularly too important, particularly her. I just failed something, some kind of board objective, probably because time ran out. Let's see, board countermeasures. So right now our countermeasures are kill things with a charge, which we haven't even crafted, kill things in the maintenance sector, and kill rangers using abilities in the research sector. And if I am going to fight any executive enemies, now would be the time to abandon a couple of these quests and take these instead. So let's do that. Let's abandon this, and then we have kill enemies in the executive sector 50. We'll accept that one. Kill enemies with the executive launch abilities. Okay, we'll take that. But these other two also center around executive incursions. So clearly they feel like I should be fighting more people in this executive sector, but that's not happening. So these guys moved forward a little bit, and Dylan is this way, I believe. Not sure if we've been in this room before. I guess it is. We were in this room, there was nothing here before.
Happiness comes, white pearls, but yellow and red in the eye. Through a mirror, inverted is made right. Leave your insides by the door. Push the fingers through the surface into the wet. You've always been a new you. You want this to be true. We stand around you while you dream. You can almost hear our words, but you forget. New time. The thunderous understands.
What he's saying feels very much like I created the hiss. Jesse Faden created the hiss, and when she entered the building, she caused the incursion, which, and now she's kind of living this fantasy out and deluding herself into the thought that she's in charge of the Federal Bureau of Control. It really is like a schizophrenic breakdown style of story that we're playing here. You walk into a magic building that nobody else can find. You're immediately made the most important person in the building ever. You're immediately given an all-powerful gun. You're given yourself enough challenge that but not so much challenge that you'll fail, because I guess canonically in the story every time I've died didn't really happen.
You say insane hurts to be happy, and your world is a dream you just can't stop having in a dream.
So, I wouldn't give her the 0% chance that Jesse would just, as her character, just, you know, free him right now and say, let's get out of here, let's go, let's run. But of course, the hiss in the storyline is gonna make that impossible. And I guess the question is he flying because of the hiss, or is he flying because of some other ability?
You are a worm through time.
Shit.
Distorts you.
That's Dylan.
Can you hear me?
Oh, come on, Dylan. I'm here. I found you.
So she should try the claim ability.
Do you know who I am?
Claim this point of power and cleanse him.
Say it.
You are Dylan Faden's sister.
He's talking in the third person. Always a good sign.
Do you know who you are?
Not Dylan. Trench and Darling made sure of that. I'm P6. P6. But I'm better now. The hiss made me better. Push the fingers through the surface into the wet. You've always been the new you. You want this
Can you
to
stop
be true.
that? Please.
Not exactly the reunion I'd hoped for.
It feels good to say those words. I want to say them. They sound good. They make me feel good. Don't you want to say them too?
No. Fuck off, no. You need to help me get this thing out of his head. If he is still in there, if there is anything left, you have to help me.
You! through the hole in you. We let you in. You've always been here. The only truth. A copy of a copy of a copy of a copy.
Stop it!
Orange peel.
Shit. Shit. He can see you. This is not safe.
We found Polaris together with my sister when we were very small. In Ordinary. In the desert, through the door opened up by the slide projector.
This is a story we already knew.
But she didn't help when Trench took me away. She didn't give me any powers. All the powers are my own powers. She didn't help when they locked me up for years.
After the song time for applause, we build you till nothing remains. The egg cracks and the truth will emerge out of you.
I assume that there's probably a small bit of logic in the rambling, but
The
not
Bureau brought the
anything
slide
that you
projector
could
back here
pull
with
out
me.
of this that's
And the Bureau
important.
did what the Bureau does. They used it. And they found... They opened the door up to the hiss. That's the only thing I can thank them for.
There. There it is. We stopped the Altered World event in Ordinary when we shut down the slide projector. And now the projector's here.
An earworm is a tune you can't stop humming in a dream. Baby, 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 yeah. Just plastic. So safe. Nothing to worry about. Funny.
Is he mentioning like songs that he wouldn't have
welcome the
heard?
hiss.
Like,
I
why would they
let
have
it
been
in
letting him listen to
To
music
get rid of her.
in
The hiss
the past
set me
10 years
free.
or so? Roughly 10 years.
Polaris is using you. The Bureau is using you. You are a puppet.
You can almost hear our words, but you forget.
If we shut off the slide projector, maybe that will stop the hiss.
Your regulations.
Maybe it's not too late for my brother.
You must see the truth for yourself, Jesse. Sister. The horrible truth about the Bureau. The hiss is the better option. Go to the Prime Candidate program in the containment sector. I have the keycard to get you there. Salvador wanted me to have it.
Wanted? Bullshit. I saw what the hiss did to Salvador. What it turned him into.
Okay, Dylan. I'll go. I want to see the truth for myself.
I'll go. But only to look for the slide projector. You can help me. We can end this.
So, how am I going to get this key card?
Through time. You are through time. The thunderstorm.
Oh, see, it just magically handed me a key card.
I don't know what else I'm hoping to find here.
Dylan.
We can have a second conversation, but it's going to
Can we
be a
talk?
cutscene, I think.
I'd like to tell you about a dream I had last night.
Off to a good start.
There might
Okay.
be one, maybe two of
I'm
these.
listening.
I was back in Ordinary, before all of this happened. But in the dream, I was alone. It was just me. I was
Yeah.
the only child.
I wonder about that.
A girl. My name was Jesse Dylan Faden. But then the Bureau came and caught me, brought me back here, locked me up.
Now, this
Have
guy's
you ever
bald.
noticed that our names, Jesse, Dylan, they could be girls' names, boys' names, could be anything. Don't you find that weird? I find that weird.
Sure.
What the hell was that? Is he trying to mess with me?
You are a worm through time. The thunderstorm.
So yeah, maybe this character is not human at all. Maybe she's a replacement. Maybe she is just Polaris.
Maybe
Well,
Dylan's still in there.
Maybe we'll go
Maybe
through
there's
this
a way to reach him.
See if this is the same
I'd
story.
like to talk to my brother, please.
See how this differs.
Dylan?
Dylan would like to tell you about a dream he had just now.
This again?
I was going to be the new director of this place. I helped you get a job here so that we could be together. You were an office assistant. You'd make coffee and deliver the mail, and there was always plenty of work to do. And it stayed that way forever and ever. It was nice. Really nice.
That's debatable.
But here's the strange thing. The dream shifted, and none of it was real anymore. It was a game. We were in a game, and it was a fucking boring game. But you couldn't stop playing. And then it shifted again.
That's a weird statement to say inside of a video game.
Or maybe it was another dream already. Or maybe I'm just confusing them. But in this other dream, it was more like a musical. This is an ordinary song about an ordinary girl from an ordinary town. It's the ordinary story. She worked an ordinary job in an ordinary office. Something. And that's all I can remember of that dream.
Maybe that's for the best.
It's really, really dangerous to say the characters are in a boring game, in a game that, frankly, is a little bit boring.
Maybe I can learn more about the hiss from him.
Can we talk?
Just go through all of these.
I just had an interesting dream.
See, how much dialogue did they pay this
Shit.
guy to do?
That's fascinating, but let's talk about the hiss for a change, yeah?
This dream was about the hiss.
Best I'm gonna get.
In my dream, the hiss had broken free of this prison, this house.
Well,
I'd
it
set it
cuts.
free. And the president himself was there to welcome us. He was the first one to take the hiss in. Spread the word. At first, many people thought it was horrifying. That he was horrifying. But also, many people who heard his words wanted to welcome the hiss in. And slowly, more and more of them came around until the whole world was brought together by the hiss. It was wonderful.
So it's kind of like the Borg.
Okay. Thanks for sharing that.
For the record, that will never happen. Not as long as I'm alive.
Let's just keep going. We might as well see all this.
Maybe I'm just
Remember,
here to punish myself.
there's no achievements for the
Any
Epic
new
Store,
dreams you'd like
so
to
you
share,
almost
Dylan?
certainly would get an achievement for going through all of these.
I'm glad you asked.
But yeah,
Sister.
they face cap this
dream,
guy and
like all dreams now, felt
recorded
very
a lot of dialogue
real.
for elements
Like
that we'd
reality.
almost never see.
And reality now feels like a dream. Maybe it's all a dream.
There's some
Maybe
very
it's all real.
harsh camera jumps happening here.
Dream where my brother endlessly tells me about his dreams.
I was in a dark place, and there was a dark man there. His name was Mr. Door, and he told me that there are many worlds, side by side, on top of each other, some inside of others. In one world, there was a writer who wrote a story about a cop.
This is Alan Wake, I think.
In another world, the cop was real. Door said he himself was in all of them at the same time, endlessly shifting between them. I asked him how I could reach these worlds. I wanted to bring the hiss there, But he didn't want to help me. He didn't like the idea. What did he know?
I'm not wild about the idea myself.
Through time.
So there's still more of these?
Here we go again. Once more with feeling.
Let me guess. You want to tell me about your dream?
Yes. Yes. In fact, I'm having a dream right now.
Oh. That's new.
In this dream, I'm standing in the corner watching Jesse and Dylan talk about this very dream. This very dream! He said just now! And repeated it again now. I'm standing there and watching, and that's all I can do. It's as if I'm trapped there. And that's all I have to say about that dream.
Okay, Dylan. That's good.
So that's probably the last one, but that was like
Is he
7.
still in there? Or is this the hiss playing mind games?
We don't
I don't
even
know.
we don't even have the prompt anymore. So yeah.
You've always been here. You want this to be true. Be standing around me while you dream.
A lot of dialogue there. A lot of stuff that we didn't really need to do. Or a lot of players will definitely not bother to go through all of that. And the one thing we didn't do is fight anybody. It would be rather silly to try and go get into a fight. Also, I'm just trying to run through the main story, and it's already slowing the process down considerably. And they want me to go to the prime candidate location, which I guess maybe is just logistics. What we'll want to do here is look at the load. Now, see, you have a small amount, and then a bump, and then a small amount, a much larger amount, bump, and then kind of a consistent load, and then a major load, and then a bump. And I'd be really interested to see what those different bumps are that's causing that. But in general, having the physics on the 2080 RTX graphics card does seem like it makes the load take a little bit less. So here's an area we can fly. So putting this in an open world, as you move forward, you always go downward. You're always at a slight tilt. Or you go far enough and then you start to slide down. So that means that if this was in an open world area, if these levels were open world instead of these crazy buildings, there would be a lot of mountains you'd have to build that were extremely tall, a lot of things in general that would just be clear invisible walls like barriers, and it would be a little frustrating. Undoubtedly it would be a little bit frustrating. Meanwhile, if you're over like this and you're trying to dash, that would mean you'd have to have even taller mountains. And you're still in some weird positions here where you aren't quite maneuvering as well as I would like. Alright. I do now have the throw ability, by the way. So let's try this. Yeah, the rocket launcher is not working at all. So any idea that I would be able to use the rocket launcher and do major damage back to people is not really accurate. Yeah, and I don't think you're going to get enough points. So you have a small amount, then a large amount, then a big jump. The big jump I almost assume is loading in and there's a bit of a lag as it's loading. I don't think that's something to complain about too much. Now I do have a slight complaint to make about how many fans now with my new power supply and 2 major graphics cards going on. There is this high hiss. I'm gonna have to probably do a new sample on noise reduction. I don't know if I really need to be even fighting these guys, or if I should just move on. Like, honestly, am I gonna get locked out of where I want to go? Because I want to go kind of where I am here. See, it seems to imply that there would be a door either right here or not. Let's do an experiment here. Shut the security shelter down. Let's see if that will cause things to despawn. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Doesn't feel like it. Feels like the enemies are still very much in their area. And I think I'm just kind of in the wrong place in general. So I'm just gonna run over here. And inevitably, there's now people in this area that want to fight me. And I don't want to deal with them. Alright. See, it seems like there's a door that should be right here. And that doesn't seem like that works. And I like that some of these sections here have kind of had a shortcut opened, and the shortcut doesn't just look exactly like the same things over and over again, because often it is just these locked doors. By the way, let's take a moment. I want to look at all of our garbage, but we had this other quest, which was fridge duty. Also, this was, what was this going to require us to do if we track that one? Containment Percepticon. All right, we may go back to that mission. The Old Friends quest. Defeat a corrupted his guy in maintenance. So all of those quests would require us to go to maintenance. And frankly, I kind of don't want to do that. Now we've got collectibles that we'll deal with those later. And we'll see. It feels like our inventory is approaching full. This is 20% rate of fire versus 16%, so we can dismiss this. We still are picking up level 2 items, so there clearly is either just a random chance of always getting level 1, level 2 items, or there is a chance of something. So this is accuracy 13%. This should be way worse. Something else that goes on there. I can't really sit on all of these items as much as this. So this blast radius 35% versus a blast radius of 67% for the charge. I think the charge may turn out to be useful. We have here a recoil 13% minus 17%, so we can get rid of that one. And then we have a projectile spread of 19% versus projectile spread of 22% for the shatter. There's kind of barely enough inventory, but then also it's weird that any of this exists. I'm gonna end up, it feels like by the end of the game, having a level 5 at least of every kind of weapon mod, and it's not gonna really matter as much as I think they think it will. Right, so this would be projectile spread 10%, so we can get rid of that. These icons do not make it any easier to sort through this stuff. And personal mods, let's see. We have one that is C's speed 66% versus a C's speed of 70%, which means ours is not as useful. And then we have a energy of 5% versus an energy of 15%. So we can get rid of that one too. And you have less inventory space, it looks like, on this menu than you do on this menu. So they intentionally made it not really suitable to have as much inventory as you could. Odd to have one security guard. That does feel like more natural, naturalistic storytelling. Locate the mirror in synchronicity. Research mirror testing. Are we in the research division? No, so we just got a quest by picking up something. No, so there's another altered item mission. It really is going to come down to is how good of a Metroidvania is this game. Is it really going to find a way to put me back in every area?
Candidates. The Bureau needs a director. Our future. P6 and P7.
So, am I P7? It looks like we haven't been in this area, but there's definitely been areas that looked a lot like that. I wouldn't be surprised if I turned out to be a clone. Right. These are all flying guys. these guys are getting healed by this orb, which it looks like the orb heals everybody really well. That was an unfortunate hit. Let's dash out of these guys. I'm trying to find where the orb is, and it's having trouble. I'm having trouble finding it with the other red pieces flying around. Remember, I could be flying right now. And just transforming that guy to my side is a good way, I guess, of keeping him from hurting me. So I can, like, I think he will basically just take damage as he moves forward. Here's a twisted area that this is all twisted, like the TV was twisted. Is there anybody down here? See, I think that guy is just slowly dying. Where did he come from? Like, seriously, where did that guy come from? There's another bit of a lag. So the question is, what caused that lag? Is it loading in textures? I suspect it is. And I don't really think I can blame the hardware, the brand new 2080 RTX for this. I think Control is just terribly programmed. That would be my guess. Since it seems like it's not optimized at all to run. This isn't an infinite thing, though. It's just twisted. It's just the entire building is twisted, and because the entire building is twisted, they can do a lot more copying and pasting of the layouts of areas and have basically nothing in here. Like, there's no collectible, there's nothing there. There's something up here, something over here. This is slightly not groundbreaking, an idea to have the floor slightly sloped, but it is something that you don't do a lot of, for the fact that there's just a ton of mostly physics elements that will have problems with that. Let's see how that handles. Yeah. Even a slight impact caused the ladder to fall over. So, like this bump here, if I do that, it will immediately fall over because gravity really hasn't changed. It's just the surface you're walking on. Meanwhile, I don't think that there's anything we missed. We kind of came in through there, and so it's either going to this next section where it says P6, P7, or go down and get on the ground floor and go in this section. I don't think it matters too much. We have a shortcut we can unlock. We have closed cases. Which is just an office with more collectibles. And another one of these. Oh, seriously. I figured there'd be 3 of these. So this is how we're gonna wrap up this episode, is watching these awful things. And there's a reflection on the screen too. Thank goodness for flat screen TVs and better setups.
I can see you're upset, Meg. Why don't you tell Uncle Mr. Bones what's wrong?
I did bad on my clairvoyance test.
You can't ace every test, Meg. You see, everyone has different brains. Some brains can talk.
This is so creepy.
Other. We call this ESP.
ESP?
Some brains can lift objects like a baseball. Talk about a fly ball, eh, Meg? No interruptions! So who cares if you fail your clairvoyance test? Maybe your brain can throw baseballs, or talk to dead people, or make friends blind. Once we know what your brains can do, we'll know what job to give you. And if your brains are just right, you'll get to sit in the big chair.
A big chair with the puppet for scale.
What if I don't want the big chair?
What if I don't want the big chair?
Everyone wants the big chair, Meg!
That's why we're all here. Use those brains to listen for once, or the only chair you'll get in is the one with straps.
Creepy, and it does bring about a good point, though, that, you know, I wouldn't be surprised if there were several cutthroat middle management employees that were trying to take over as director. Although, specifically when you have a environment here set up that you cannot possibly be the director unless this interdimensional group of the Black Pyramid, the board, tells you that you're the director, I think that probably negates a lot of that cutthroatedness, assuming everybody knew that's how it worked. Projectiles fired 4 versus projectiles fired 3. We're just disenchanting more of these items, or deconstructing more of these items than we're actually doing anything with. This is a shield strength 41 versus 48. I really wish the text was bigger. You know, The Witcher 3 had so many features, and they added features, particularly after the fact in patches, to make it so that you could totally customize the UI. I really would have liked to see more games adopt how customizable The Witcher 3 was. But in this game particularly, just tell me to have a higher DPI text, because I'm looking at a TV screen. It's like It's a big TV. It's probably a, well, I don't, it's probably a 30-inch at least, if not a 50, 60-inch TV. It's big. I should be able to tell whether it's a 30 or 60, but I haven't thought about it in a while. Here's a new dialogue thing, and here's a new thing. But I'm looking at a TV from 10 feet away. This is basically couch controller gameplay, and from this distance I can make out most of the words, but it is a bit of a struggle to try and read all of that. Now I guess for most people watching that won't be too much of a struggle. The text isn't that small. We didn't really accomplish a lot in this recording, unfortunately. It was just a lot of talking to people, talking to Dylan. We spent about 15 minutes, I think, just listening to Dylan talk. And it wasn't a very good reunion with your brother. But clearly they needed to stretch the game out some more. So they had to do something. So here's a new one of that. Here's a new one of that. We're starting to find a little bit more collectibles, because up until this point I had kind of felt like we were getting to the point where we had collected everything. But I guess there are still some areas we haven't even been to. I'm a little surprised by how many areas we haven't been to, because the story really could have ended. We could have talked to Dylan. He could have said, go to the nostalgia department, which looks like it's the final area of the game. This is new. And fight the final boss. The way this is set up now, we may be running into a halfway point in the game, which I don't know how you would justify that, to say that we are actually at the halfway point of the game. Let's see. There's one music thing. I would have thought there would have been more music things. I bet that's all the Threshold Kids videos we're gonna see, I hope. And yeah, I really couldn't tell as far as other things. Hotline, we got another prime candidate hotline element. Wouldn't be surprised if we don't see any more of that, but we probably will see more of the board. The way this is all set up, you kind of feel like the board would be the main bad guy, but how are you going to fight a giant floating black triangle? Because that's where this would have to turn, is in the next episode we'd have to find out that the Federal Bureau of Control really is super, super evil, which they probably are. They are secretly amassing power from the rest of society, and that somehow the Hiss is more preferable. I don't know how you buy into that argument. And at that point, the Hiss would give me some kind of power, either now or at the final boss fight, and then you're fighting a giant black triangle that's probably going to spawn a bunch of enemies to defend it, and maybe do some crazy shapes to potentially fight me with that, like the Anchor did. Although frankly, the Anchor fight in particular is scary, because if I run into any other fight like that, that's going to be super, super annoying. Particularly if it's a fight that involves platforms where you can fall to your death, which was the main problem with that fight. Anyways, that's going to be it for this recording. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want a friend or follow me on any social media sites, there's a whole bunch of links down below in the description box. And if you want to support me even further, there's a link to Patreon, or you can friend me on Steam and gift me a game off my wishlist. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening. Hey everybody, this is Rydo, and we're back to Control. Let's continue. So, we've talked to Dylan mostly in the last recording. That was our main thing. And he told us to find out the secret dark truth about the Federal Bureau of Control. Go to the P6 program and go to the P7 program. One assumes I might be P7. Jesse Faden might be.
I wish things had gone differently in Ordinary for us. But wishing won't change things.
Like, I don't know
Finding
where
the projector
Ordinary...
will.
So much coming together in this one case. A new object of power, something we have not seen before. I mean, coming from me, that's saying something. The boy, Dylan Faden, prime candidate 6, and the sister as well. Once we catch up with her, but the boy, so much potential. We're talking Northmore level readings here, and I don't want to invoke his name, but it's completely different circumstances here. It's remarkable.
So that we're not getting a lot there.
There was an incident. Yes.
I don't know what happened in Northmore because I haven't been reading the dialogue in text form. I barely know what happened in Ordinary. They found a slide projector. It made all the adults disappear.
We lost a valuable member of our team, yes. Excessive force. Dylan has so much. But he's just a kid. I'll take the blame. He needs some slack. I mean, boys will be boys.
So here's the problem with this. He's Darling,
under a lot of stress.
In this recording, would have to have been about 10 years younger. So his appearance should look a little different. Even if he went from just like 40 to 50.
We will make this work. We'll make this work.
So, and you can't really attribute that all of the previous projections we've seen with Darling in them, of which there have been a lot, were all of him a long, long time ago. This is a non-gun area, also. I don't particularly know why that's the case. P6 victim autopsy. Dylan Faden transcript. And then I can't tell what that is. It's some paused image. Probably on the containment chamber that Dylan was being held in originally instead of the containment chamber we were in before. So P7 is probably me.
Is this what Dylan wanted me to see? It doesn't matter. We need to find that projector.
They were spying on me, no duh. They were trying to perhaps raise me as the next director, but I don't know. The way they do things. We got a new outfit. Candidate P7, interesting. That's the first outfit we found in the entire game. Are we nowhere? Like, seriously, are we in a position where we're only halfway through the game?
All the times I felt paranoid, I was right. The Bureau could have given me the answers, but they just stood by and watched me.
Well, that probably is the right response, considering how they drove Dylan crazy when they tried to directly interfere. The idea that the Federal Bureau of Control would be good at raising kids to be effective human beings in any way seems highly unlikely.
We used to play there all the time. Me and Dylan, and other kids as well.
This might be recycled lines of
I loved
dialogue.
it. This time, I remember was different. We found a way in, deeper into it, like it had shifted. We went inside.
This is like an old recording of Ryu's dialogue
where we found the slide
with her voice sounding
The
as
dump
it
is a
sounds
place for
now.
lost things. Things that have been thrown away. Did you ever feel that way when you were growing up, Jesse?
What? No. Yes, but that has nothing to do with...
Was there a slide projector at your home when you were small?
No.
Those were before your time, I suppose. But your family did look at photos together, maybe. In one form or the other?
Maybe.
When was this? Can you remember? At parties? Barbecues? How did it make you feel? Did your parents ever show pictures that embarrassed you? Was alcohol ever involved at these parties? Did your parents...
She's
drink?
really...
Did that make you uncomfortable?
Stretching.
No, that's just stupid. Come on. That has nothing to do with this. Nothing.
The slide projector, let me ask you this. As a child, did you ever fantasize about worlds inside pictures? Inside a painting? You know, stepping into a painting, into a hidden world, escaping and finding adventure there?
This is
Away
not how
from your parents.
psychiatrists
I
should
don't-
act. They're talking more
I
than
don't think
the
so.
patient
I
is.
don't remember. Maybe. I don't know.
So they're trying to like implant false memories in her or something? Like, why bother to do any of that if you felt you were going to make her... Oh, that was a major lag. Man, these legs just come out of kind of nowhere. It would have been better for that recording if she had sounded like a child, because that felt like that was something that would make more sense if you were trying to make her forget about what had happened. Right, so do I want to go through here, which goes into another area, or do I want to first come back and look at the first floor? I want to look at the first floor. Let's just see if there's anything collectible on this first floor. They've kind of done an inversion trick here where they've made the first floor very unimportant in most levels and then made the second floors the important parts. Whereas often in games the second floor would be the unimportant part. So this is a shortcut that we can only get through this section. Apparently I could look at this a second time if I want to, but you won't get any lines of dialogue. Then our gun comes out once we're out of that room. Not sure there was really a need to do that. Not open that shortcut.
They studied what happened in Ordinary here. That's the place to start looking.
Interesting that we're going to the Ordinary Altered World event section, because I really hadn't thought that they'd have a section for every Altered World event. Again, this all feels very much like you're living a schizophrenic's delusion here. Everything's about you. Everything's important. Like, everything that happens in your life is important. Way more important than anything else that had happened to anybody else. We're kind of in a little bit of a narrow area, so I think if I just get a couple of these guys on my side, the others will all die pretty easily. And you can see now his life is slowly going down, and it will just go down to 0, and then the area will be cleared of enemies. They'll just turn into dust. Although usually up until this point they've been turning into smoke alone, not dying on the ground. Well, now he's turned into smoke. Interesting to have 2 death animations. Still a little weird that we're getting in these areas, we're having these conflicts, and then it's not really playing any part. So I'm looking at some hallway that's not the turntable. This is some kind of elevator that would, where would this go? The transit corridor, which might be where we need to go. We can call the elevator and see if that... I heard something and thought that might be the case. Again, this is another great example of a room that just does not synchronize in any way with the flying ability. That they're trying to constrict your flying ability because they did not think of these things clearly. And here's just a little storage room with some more collectibles. I guess you want to get these collectibles in these mods. It's the only way you're gonna be able to dismantle enough things to upgrade your guns, and you kinda need to upgrade your guns so that maybe you can put some more mods on them and make them slightly more destructive.
Experiments.
Another walk and talk here. This would have been a good point to put in music. If you're gonna do copyrighted like music, have some elevator music that plays in a soundtrack in a loop, kind of like how radios and cars play. Those guys, I think, more than anybody else, just die well with the dodge move. Alright, now you go fight people for me. And I'm gonna work my way, see if I can find somebody I can actually hit. Had to aim the gun a little bit high, further ahead because he was running at speed. And we've got a control point. So do I even want to look around here? Again, just more cubes and shifting of cubes. It feels like that sci-fi series of Cube 2, Cube Hypercube. There was a third one that was even worse, way worse. I think there might have even been a fourth one that I've never seen. The shifting there just makes it feel like the old house has been slightly altered and affected, where I would have preferred to see
We're going back home.
the hiss.
Of course we are.
Infect it with some kind of
Started there, and it's
glowing red mist at the very least around the
never
walls.
gone away.
And yeah, we still need flashlight mods on this game. Terribly. I don't think I can cross that, but at some point we're clearly going to get an ability that lets me cross that stuff. It feels like you also... Hidden location discovered? There's not been any hidden locations I've discovered up until this point. This game feels like it was made by at least 2 different groups. Most games feel like they are made by at least 2 different teams that are slightly off their connection. That they're not communicating well enough. There's not one manager running the whole show. But to all of a sudden find a hidden location is really, really weird and unexpected. I was not... I would have bet money against anything like that. So there's nothing here. It's this turntable. It says NYC Subway. So apparently this actually connects to the New York City subway system and allows them to transport things in and out through some kind of secret subway. You know, there probably is something like that in the New York City subway. Some kind of, like, government or police subway car that goes somewhere different or rides at different times. Seems like all we can do, however, is go forward. We have one ability here, which for 2 abilities we could get the shield barrage, which I thought I already had and tried to use. We could do the ground slam for 3. I don't think I'd ever use the ground slam ability, but we probably do need to increase our levitate ability, particularly if we're going to try and find other elements. Being able to launch enemies is not probably a high consideration. More energy in general would probably be somewhat useful. Let's see. As for crafting, we could upgrade the grip, which we're not using. We could upgrade the spin, which we are using. So that makes sense. So we are getting better drops. I would like to construct a charge at some point. And I don't think it justifies... There's a justification for upgrading the construction level on mods, because that's something that just isn't going to happen. Alright, so right now the spin has a reload speed of 21%, a damage when on low health of 83%, and I want to give it something else. Ammo cost when levitating minus 24%. That would be nice, but then I'd have to levitate and change how I play this game, and I really don't want to do that. We could increase the rate of fire. We could reload chance on hit. Ooh, 11% chance to reload every time you hit somebody, meaning that you have a high chance of never having to reload, or not an amazingly high chance, but a chance nonetheless. This one is projectile spread 16. I feel like we have a projectile spread of 22, so we can get rid of that. The variety in these mods are crazy. 23% damage while aiming versus 29% damage while aiming. You know, this minus damage while on low health probably is better but it only works for Pierce, unfortunately. It would be better to use damage while aiming on Pierce, because you're likely to use that. But Pierce is not even upgraded one time, whereas Spin has been upgraded a few times. And let's see, this is launch energy 17% minus 20%. I'm not sure if there are going to be any level 6 personal mods. Alright. So here we are at the turntable, and as we get closer and the textures start loading in, we get hitches. So we've got one guy flying in the chair, and then we've got some other guys that are just the suicide bomber characters. Alright, so time to dash back this way and get all the health that was sitting around. This is one of those few instances where actually having health sitting around will prove to be useful. These guys move out of the way half the time. Man, yeah. It's got to be loading these big areas.
There's got to be a way to rotate these tracks.
And then we've got these black
there's a
things.
control panel nearby.
So there's a black thing running around the ground. And we've got some of these guys that are probably going to block our path. What is this? A A1 candidate chamber. The glowing black orbs really do have a feeling like they are ordinary dump site.
There's gotta be a way to rotate these tracks. Maybe there's a control panel nearby.
What does that say? Ordinary AWE. Transit corridor north. And that doesn't want to open. So yeah, this is using physics. It's basically a little tornado object that just, and it's using probably some RTX technology, but does it really have any connection to the hiss or anything like that? No, not really. Why is the audio glitching? Yeah, I don't know if that was to set a mood or if that was intentional. Alright, shortcut opened. Transfer starts. Meanwhile, while that's happening, we see there's a door here that is blocked off. And let's see what's behind this door.
Something's blocking it.
We're starting to see a lot more storage sheds, storage closets instead of bathrooms. Which, I mean, that's fine and all, but I don't know if there's Meanwhile, I'll just run around this area and see if there's anything else. It's questionable. So there's this whole dump site area. We'll have to get to that at some point. Is there something in this direction also? Yeah, there's something over there at the Sterling AWE area. This can't be the whole city, can it? It's got to be just a collection of objects and research around the event. It might explain what some of these pictures are that we've been seeing, though, as if they are ordinary. AW is that way, and from the looks of it, we can't just walk through the big door. We're gonna have to take this side passage. These alarms don't play much roles, like so many other effectively assets that have been flipped. I wouldn't call this an asset flip game by any means, but there's a lot of pre-bought assets in this game that are used just as things you can pick up and throw, and as decorations to decorate the rooms. Far too much, frankly. Had you gone with more of a minimalistic architecture style, you could have had a lot of black and white that way, and you could have had a lot less texture and a lot less things. A lot less things with physics on them. Just every room is overburdened. Where is it? That was, I believe, an enemy that we fought once before, and in the previous time I hit it once with the pierce and it died. Maybe I hit it twice with the pierce and it died. This time it took 2 pierce shots and throwing an object at it. But you can also see this is not a prime area to have a fight. They've locked you down quite a lot, so you can't fly any higher. Although it looks like there might be a room up there. And they would, I suppose, we're trying to get you to play the way they were teaching you to play, which was hiding behind corners and doing all of that. What's weird is, at a point, I was able to hit the left, like, oh, it's the down on the D-pad that changes it, not the left and the right that changes it. That just doesn't make any sense at all. So I could be on the other side. Being on the other side, it's slightly better, but we've been playing the game like this already, so actually I don't think this is slightly better, because anytime I'd aim for something on the right, I'd be shifting more. So they probably made the right decision by putting her on the left. It's just weird that she's so far to the left. I kind of would like her. I like the camera a little bit more zoomed in, so you're only seeing maybe half of her back instead of most of her back. Right. There's something over there. So apparently there are destructible environments, at least in this section. So, in theory, anytime I look at the map and think, hey, there might be something, or if I find something that looks like it should be accessible, I now have to use the melee to destroy the walls. There's already been way too much collections stuff. Way too many secrets and collectibles in this game. Introducing even more is insane. Like, anytime it looks like there might be a good place, it might make sense to say, let's check to see if there's a wall there. I bet it doesn't happen anywhere else in the game. I bet for the rest of my gameplay I do not find another secret wall like that. I guess we're working our way around this. We are going to hit an elevator. I don't know how much the elevator is going to play a role. Alright. There's a helicopter. Over there we have a powered up thing. I don't know what it is, but I know I'm going to power it up, so might as well start. I suppose it is a reasonable question to ask if the adults really did disappear, or if they simply were told to disappear and relocated. I don't want to cross the line here because I feel like I'm going to start a fight, but it seems like I don't really have a choice. It's not even a helicopter, it's just an airplane that at some point they took the airplane part off. So what's the story that we're supposed to be pulling from this? Is this the airplane that brought the slide projector to ordinary? Is this an airplane that was affected by the slide projector? Is this an airplane from a completely different dimension? And more gameplay design wise, is this a 3D model somebody bought, or is this something you gave to an intern as a project, or a 3D modeler as a project, and this became their baby and they made an airplane that never gets to be shown in its proper alignment or anything because it would be impossible to have fights in this area, or have an area that was so open air that you could fly around in and fight an airplane. There's a control cube in here, so you kind of need to be able to make sure the door is open before you can do that. So you needed 3 power nodes just to turn the elevator on, and there's nothing else in this room. That seems ridiculous. Seems like somebody put a lot of work in making this airplane and making this room for it to be nothing. Oh look, there was another security box hidden back this way in case you couldn't find it. And there's some offices up here, and who's to say if those offices will actually ever be accessible. So we're probably gonna get another walk and talk in the elevator. This probably is also to hide loading as they make these big areas and horribly underuse the big areas and then end up having to overuse the small areas. I can't throw anything inside the elevator because it's it's too narrow. There's a stronger enemy, but he doesn't look like he's particularly strong right now. So maybe the game took pity on me already before I even died once. Need to take these guys out or take control of one of these guys. That was a shockingly easy fight, and it put us in a different observation room. This is where these offices that I was talking about. It's a slightly different observation room that is laid out exactly like the previous observation room, except for there was a door over on this side, which again, at that point, is the question is there a secret door? There's way too much copying and pasting as far as architectural layout for them to introduce secret areas. I don't feel like Dead Space, which is I think a fair comparison to this game, did any environment that felt samey. I feel like every single area in Dead Space 1 and Dead Space 2, you knew exactly where you were, and you knew exactly what you were, where you were going and what you were doing. Here, not so much. Let's see. This is 25% versus 29%. And I'm playing way too much menu hero now. So I really should just look at the items I can equip and see if there's anything that's improved and not get too much into this. This one would be 55 speed versus 70, 65% speed versus 70, so that's not as good. This is 29 health on elemental pickup versus 35%. I would have thought our drops would have gotten better, but they don't seem like they are. They still seem rather randomized. Health 31% versus a health of 29%. We can get rid of that. Then health on element pickup 35% versus health on element pickup 41%. So we are working our way to another area, looking for the slide projector. Let's see. Look how time it took for that texture to load in. Just because there's so many textures everywhere. It's really way too many textures on the walls. Even the walls themselves. Like, you've got very detailed wood patterns that have been painted here, and this doesn't feel like it is a small tessellated repeated texture. And even if it is, then you've got very detailed things. This game looks great at the cost of it being a video game, whereas if this was going to be sold as a if this was instead going to be sold as an animated movie series, I would appreciate this level of detail, although a lot of this level of detail doesn't also really matter any. because it's stuff you just walk by and don't even recognize. Where the bigger things, like the repeated security scanners and the repeated architecture and repeated signs over and over again, they stop going from just, oh, this is a normal thing where you would have a lot of the same things over and over again, to a point where they are just incredibly badly made. And notice this texture has problems loading in every time. Like, all I have to do is walk a little bit away, look at something else, and then I'm already out of RAM. And so you're back to, oh, we've got to look at it, we've got to zoom in, we've got to get that high resolution texture going again.
You're listening to America Overnight, celebrating 29 years, shining a light in the shadows.
I hear hiss, but I don't see him.
There is a curious correlation with the yet unknowable forces intruding upon our world, in the form of altered world
Look at
events.
these rays
These
of
forces
light
gravitate toward archetypal
and the
objects,
reflection.
a television,
That's
a
nice.
supposedly haunted house. So clearly humanity affects this process. Our collective unconscious is a map of sorts. We hold the key, but we don't know how to use it. We create these archetypes through everyday life, popular culture, urban legends, but we are observing and influencing a complicated system in action. We can change the likelihood of something being a receptacle for these forces just by thinking about it. But we haven't found a method to control the outcome. And yet, there's something unique in us, in our dreams, in the conceptual reality with power with our minds. What's the cause?
This guy,
and what's the effect?
like,
Are we the starting point, or just
no
a
telling
necessary
when this was
evil,
recorded.
a byproduct, a
Could have been
reflection,
yesterday, could have been a week
projection?
ago, could have been 10 years ago.
We'll struggle to find the answers to these
And we
hard
know some of
questions.
these recordings had to have been like 10 years ago, roughly speaking. Also, it looked like it flashed some kind of secret augmented reality code secret there. I wouldn't be surprised if there is something like the radios that were patched into Portal 1, where you could get codes and secrets from it if you decoded all of it.
Thank you for staying with us. Here's our first caller. What I'm about to tell you, if they found out, I don't know what would happen.
I think I skipped the first one of these I listened to, because I thought it was just going to be a radio playing
Something nobody
music.
talks about. Ordinary. This certainly doesn't sound very ordinary, caller. No, not ordinary. Ordinary. It's a town. And it wasn't an industrial accident. I mean, that's what they said. But that's bullshit.
Whoa, please watch the language, caller. It may be 2 a.m., but we're still a family show.
I'm sorry. It's just, my brother lived there. They said the town was destroyed, but it wasn't. I went there. The people are gone, but the town's there. It's still there.
So the population of an entire town disappears, yet the town remains. Tell me, was the phrase, "there is no salvation" written anywhere?
I'm not sure.
The same thing happened in Brazil in 23, a village called Rio Verde. More than 600 people just up and left. The government said they were fleeing guerrilla
You know what?
forces.
I think Ordinary might be the name of the fake town that they built to test nuclear bombs on.
You mean aliens? That's bullshit! I know they're lying!
Now I warned you about the language, caller. I'm afraid we're gonna have to cut you off. Good timing too. It's time for a short break. Hang in there. America Overnight.
That might be where the name is coming from. Yeah, they built a whole fake town to set off a nuclear blast on it, just to see how it would affect the town at some point early into the development of relatively low-wheeled nuclear weapons. gonna let that guy handle the fight, and then I'm gonna zoom back here, wait, and then yep. The fact that I have to cheese so many of these fights, what is red that is being reflected there? Either there is a bright red object over there, or there's a bright red object in here. But it's moving like a reflection, so I'm seeing a reflection of something that looks like a bright red, maybe house? But there's nothing here. There's just that portal way over there. So let's claim this. And then let's take a moment. No, I see a reflection of a red house. And there's no red house.
Annual evaluation of Dylan Faden, formerly P6, performed by Dr. Carla Vaughn. The questions asked here correspond to the 5th iteration of the Gunner's psychological assessment. Are you ready, Dylan?
This feels like
Let's
a glitch.
begin, then. In a single word, describe the world around you.
Where's Casper?
Dr. Darling is out of the building today.
He's never out. He didn't want to come, did he? He never visits, not since Roberts. Tell Darling it wasn't my fault. I couldn't control it yet, but I can now. I learned. Will you tell him?
So, this is Dylan sounding like an adult,
A prison.
even though he killed Roberts
Cold, empty
as a kid.
prison. Not even a poster on the wall.
What is the next number in the sequence 3, 6, 9, 12, 15?
18.
What day is it today?
How the hell would I know? It's not like you give me a calendar.
You find a rabbit in the woods. It is breathing, but not moving. You cannot see any blood. What do you do?
Leave it.
Expand on that.
It doesn't matter. The rabbit's not real. None of it's real.
What day is it today?
Do you enjoy asking people questions that can't be answered? Is this what gets you up in the morning? What you dreamed of doing as a scared, stupid little girl?
Can you describe a dog to me?
In Ordinary, we had a friend. Nosebleed Neil. And when it all went crazy, you know what I mean. Nosebleed Neil turned into a dog. Or something like a dog.
What day is it tomorrow?
Fuck off! I don't know! There is no calendar! How can I fucking know?
Dylan, calm down.
Fuck you! Fuck you and fuck Casper! Hey! Are you watching this, you old fuck? Did you send your bitch because you're too scared of me? Where is
We're getting...
Security!
We've had 2 audio recordings here, in particular, that have added a lot of cussing where there really hasn't been any cussing in the game up until this point. I personally don't care if there's cussing or not. It's just a little weird, to say the least. I just want to hold on and construct charge. I don't really see a reason to upgrade grip. I've never used it. I don't really see a reason to upgrade shatter. I'm definitely not going to use that. And so we're just moving forward to the place. More collectibles. Way too many collectibles. I would have easily removed half, if not all, the collectibles to have more conflicts. Like a room like this, you could easily have had one person here at the very least to fight. Just one person in every room. That would make sense.
See what they have on Ordinary.
If it's a small room. Alright.
It's all here. Our home, our school, the woods, the dump.
It's some kind of paper craft version of the city. And there was a red building. So it's not destructible. But almost certainly this is a boss fight. Stage 3. It's bigger than you probably would ever need it to be. Why would you build a model this big? This is totally a dumb scale. It's like, okay, it's big enough that you could put like a 12 or 15 inch doll in each floor, and then each of these couldn't possibly be a real tree. There would be a lot more trees. There's a square here, and then stage 1, X marks the spot, is what looks like maybe a military base, or might, like, is this the dump? Is that what the cars indicate? I guess that could make sense. Why specific buildings are encircled, I don't know. Why this building in particular is the way it is. It is destroyable. Do I think that there's something inside some of the buildings, though? I kind of doubt it. This is another example of a room designed to allow you to fly around, and then nothing else really to do. A couple of hidden things in the corners, and that's it. We're still getting these random quests, which there's no way anybody could do most of those. It just would not work. This feels like this almost was a destructible environment experiment that they felt the need to use somehow. Because yeah, you are getting probably top of the line destructible environments here. And that certainly was something that Agent, what was it, Crackdown 3 was selling itself on, is having these major destructible environments that were powered by Microsoft Azure networking services. Let's see if we can totally destroy all of this building to the part where it collapses. Sorta. Yeah, you can break it all the way apart. Again, no achievements on the Epic Store. Almost certainly you would have gotten an achievement for breaking all of that. But Crackdown 3 also backed off of the promises of majorly destructible environments, and rather quickly released not mentioning those things because it wasn't really that impressive. And in all fairness, right now, it's not that impressive. I'm stuck in a building. So I died because I got stuck in a building. It was moderately obvious that there was going to be a fight in that room. Like, it really wouldn't have made any sense otherwise. Some of these fogs and different types of animations still don't make sense. They seem to be out of nowhere. I don't see how you feel much different, though. Yeah, I question how more different you'd feel having the hiss destroy your house and your city versus having the having Jesse destroy her own city and house. And certainly I'm not happy with just how much damage you take. We have seen absolutely nothing decrease the amount of damage you take, which is the #1 thing that needs to be in this game. Is actually, let's see if we would have to fast travel to the main area to even change the outfit. So if it was a case that the outfit that we found was the factor that that would increase your damage, if that was a mid-game armor improvement, still that's questionable to say the least. So getting rid of the suicide bombers first is probably the first goal, and then if I can get one person down in health, that would be helpful. And I am getting hit now while I'm trying to take on the enemies. So my system of using the seize ability as a way of avoiding taking damage is not working anymore. I see something that is I'm not hitting this at all. He dropped some health when I seized him. Nice. I think I mostly got this guy locked in if I can just hit him enough. He's really not dying. He's super strong. And he's shooting like 2 or 3 grenades. I don't even know if I have the grenade launch ability, but it doesn't seem like it matters. There's
the slide projector in the dump outside town. Did they recreate that too? Is that where they keep it?
So now I just kind of need to fly up and see if there's any mods or anything to pick up.
They say when you visit your childhood home, everything feels small, like a miniature, not real. They got that right.
Yeah, I don't think that there's anything here. I think we have to go that way. But we've gone an hour here, so it's... The Pierce is not doing as much damage as it needs to, quite frankly. And I thought that the Pierce was going to be the main weapon that we would use, and it kind of has been up until this point, but there's now a problem of it not doing enough damage. Let's see, this is blast radius 54% versus a blast radius of 38. And this is a recoil 17% versus 19%. Even though they're the same tier, we are getting slightly better equipment, it looks like. And this is blast radius of 54% versus 67%, so we can get rid of that. 2. Do we have any other duplicate mods? No. Personal mods. Launch energy cost 20% versus 18% versus 8%. Yep. We're collecting more of these assets to build things. We've collected in the past couple hours a couple of extra quests that we'll see how much of that we really want to do. Meanwhile, all of this dialogue, just way too much dialogue. It's such a complicated and convoluted criticism I have to make of this game too, because you're in this position where I am, where I have to say I don't like most of the fights, but I do want more fights, and I want the fights to have weaker and perhaps fewer enemies. Although it could be the same number of enemies and just weaker enemies. Either one of those would work pretty well. I don't like the environments terribly much because of the flying ability being the main factor as to why most of the environments are cramped and yet also tall for no reason. But also I would like to see the environments, since they're there, used more. So with everything they did, there's both a argument that they didn't use what they made effectively, and they didn't plan effectively at the beginning of production to say, we really shouldn't put out an E3 trailer that shows us flying because we can't do flying. What you could do is have her jump up and do like a shockwave attack and stay in one place and make it a part of the attack and not flying, as in moving around. Or you could do QuickTime events for a few scenes where there's flying. But when you build your entire game around flying, the last game that is invoked with the ability to fly around is probably Superman 64, one of the worst games ever. Not something like Snoopy versus the Red Baron, which is a flying game, or Microsoft Flight Simulator, which is a flying game, or Pilot Wings, or anything like that, because those are all games where you're flying in an airplane, and that's not something that's in the same category. When your entire game is built around the idea of flying, yes, you can make a flight simulator game that's good enough. But when you're flying around fighting people and shooting guns, there's not enough fingers on a human hand, quite frankly, and not enough buttons, or the right buttons in the right place to do that. And we've had to suffer through, at best, what I would call an awkward experience for the first several hours, 10, 12 hours, in which we didn't have flying, to later on be given flying, to now have this Metroidvania feel that it feels like they want me to run around the entire building and collect a bunch of things. And I don't think there's really a reason to do it, because we found that hidden area, and even in the hidden area that was labeled as a hidden area, and I don't think we found any other hidden areas unless I just didn't see that it was labeled as such, there was nothing in there. There was no kind of key, no kind of altered object, no kind of hiss object or something that would build around that idea. So unlike most Metroid games where you are forced to see a good 80% of the levels and areas that have been designed, I feel like as I continue to just try and struggle through the main story, which keeps getting interrupted by these fights that are frustrating, I feel like I'm probably 2 main stories done, and like maybe at most an hour more on this main chapter, and then maybe 2 more chapters, and then that's the end of the game. And I've yet to find anything that really makes me want to say I want to come back to this and play more, particularly once the story is finished. I could not imagine them doing something so amazing that would make me want to come back and run through all of this game a second time and find collectibles and find mods, particularly since the mods are obviously just random. They're just random drops from enemies. They're random drops in cases. The only time you get anything that is even slightly curated is when you do the board countermeasures, and those are not happening enough for you to even remember they exist. And the side missions that pop up where you're supposed to just go to an area and kill things are ridiculous. They shouldn't be in the game at all. It's just trying to drag the game out longer. I could imagine a lot of people doing those side missions, like 3, 4, 5 of them, before realizing that they're never going to stop, and getting bored with the game and not even finishing the main story because of the interruption to the pacing that happens because of it. Anyways, that's going to be it for this recording. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want a friend or follow me on any social media sites, there's a whole bunch of links down below in the description box. And if you want to support me even further, there's a link to Patreon, or you can friend me on Steam and gift me a game off my wishlist. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening. Hey everybody, this is Rydo and we're back to Control. So, we found a oddly scaled model of our city Ordinary with a lot of destructible environment, and then we had a fire fight in it against the boss. It's really largely scaled for no reason, and as far as I can tell. And we're looking for the slide projector, which apparently is the object of power that gave me Polaris and got Dylan caught as Prime Candidate 6 by the Bureau of Control and got me spied on for the rest of my life. Why they took Dylan in and raised him and then left me to, I guess, mostly live on the streets seems odd. We're going to the Ordinary dump site. Let's just look for collectibles. And I imagine the Ordinary dump site might be a 1-to-1 scale replica, or they might have just moved the dump site. Although it'd be kind of hard to move a dump site. There'd just be, can't just scoop it up. Although if you have magic, objects of power, you probably could do it.
You mentioned a poem last time we talked.
Apparently, they had me talking to a psychologist that was trying to gaslight me.
There's a miracle illuminated.
I looked the poem up. Only I couldn't find any poet by that name. I did find a European filmmaker who moved here in the 60s, named Thomas Zane. What? I don't know. No matter. It suits you very well. The poem. How you see things. Maybe you wrote it yourself? I didn't. No matter. You've said a few times that you feel like there's a piece of you missing.
Sounds like Jesse might be from a different universe.
Yeah,
which would make some sense. I don't think it matters much, though.
An emptiness. A yearning for
something that I think I lost.
Yeah, I'm not sure Jesse Faden
way.
is a real human at
Your
all,
brother
and
your parents
she isn't
are
just
dead.
Polaris
No.
completely.
No, Dylan's not dead. And that's not even it. You're referring to the imaginary friend from your childhood? Polaris. She's come back. After a long time, she's calling me. In a dream I saw.
What's weird is there was a Quantic Dream game, I believe,
Jesse,
that
it felt more real than anything.
was
As real
very
as
similar
what
to
happened
this.
ordinary.
A psychic
The industrial
woman
accident in your hometown
who had a
that you
kind of
believe
ghost.
Polaris caused. No, it wasn't an accident. There was
So
no
they're kind of
industrial
stealing the
accident, and
same
Polaris
generic
didn't cause it.
idea.
She saved me and Dylan.
Beyond Two Souls, I
No.
believe is the name of that game.
It was a cover-up. The government knows about it.
That
There
game
were
jumped around
agents there.
a lot in
Agents
time
from-
frames, showing
I don't
like
know
a full
exactly. They
life
took Dylan.
of the main character.
I'll find them. I won't stop looking.
There might be an argument
Polaris
towards that
wants me
idea.
to go to New York. There's a building there. I have to leave soon. I have to be there at a very specific time. Something hugely important is going to happen. Jesse, you know we can't let you go until you're well. And that begins by understanding what's real and what's imagined.
So the question comes down to, is the psychiatrist who's talking to her incompetent or in on it? It would be funny if you could zoom in on this a little bit better, which I can't. And you would see like the psychiatrist's name, but I don't think they even said it out loud. Oh man, we're still running into a lot of lagging. Yeah, if we were to just look here for a second. I used the GeForce Experience to set up this game. I would have had a base render resolution of 1080p. NVIDIA DLSS I probably have. Brightness, I think, until the left icon is not visible and the middle icon is barely visible and the right icon is clearly visible. Well, I don't see a left icon, and clearly visible is debatable. Like, honestly, even that is only slightly too bright. That's where I turn up the brightness by at least 4%. No, more than 4. That was like 14%. And this is where they had it by default. I would have gone with a quality preset of just high instead of custom. I probably would not have the texture resolution at ultra. I probably would have everything else here at high. Maybe SSAO, ambient occlusion, does often require a lot of processing power. MSAA here, even by their own use, is turned off. Film grain, normally I don't turn any of that off. I would try ray tracing, but I think ray tracing, even at its highest setting, let's see, yeah, even at its highest setting, ray tracing is not particularly good. And see, if you change the brightness, you're going to be even more bright and blown out in areas like this where it is brightly lit. So it's not really a issue of the brightness as much as it is the dynamic ambient range you have here of the dynamic range of not colors per se or audio, but the dynamic range of just how black is black and how white is white in kind of a color profile setup. And it's really construction decisions they made. The idea that this light is going to have no effect in this corner, or that light is going to have no effect in this corner. Where are we going? Yeah, there's really only a couple other areas on this floor, so we're approaching the end, I imagine. Thought we might have a checkpoint here. And see, this is clearly supposed to blind you. Yeah, I guess if you have objects of power.
Whole landfill here in the middle of New York, and nobody saw a thing. Pretty unbelievable.
I don't feel like we have. So this is urgent messages. The rest just go to floor 1, 2, 3, and 4. So there are only 4 floors in this game. I thought there was going to be 5. That's weird. Alright. So almost certainly we're going to find some collectibles on the edge, and we're going to get attacked by something. It might be a big black ball that we can't really fight, and you just have to avoid. Again, this area should not be that dark. Light bounces around, and the ray tracing concept is around that idea that light bounces around. Here's a refrigerator like the one that we're supposed to find somebody to replace the guy who was watching the refrigerator. Alright. Fire. I don't know if fire is going to actually hurt me or not. This guy doesn't seem like he's much of a challenge. Some of these enemies definitely feel like they are designed in such a way that they are more of a challenge than depending on how you attack them. Yeah, collecting that in the middle of the fight was not an intelligent move. I can't dash. This is one of these fights where it's too many people more than it's too strong people. But yeah, these kamikaze guys on top of a lot of guys that want to just throw things at me on top of a lot of other guys. Where will I reload after this death? We're still following the tradition where you have to die in every fight. There's no way out of that. And this put me back here, which puts me back here, and which then makes me fight. Like, the game is literally punishing me for dying, because now there's this other group that's gonna throw things at me, and because they're throwing things at me, they're going to do a little bit of damage before I... Wow, lag. Yeah, they're gonna do a little bit of damage before I can even get to the fight that I want to fight, which is over here. There's no reason why there shouldn't have been a checkpoint here. Doesn't have to be a fast travel. You can totally create...
Moved the whole landfill here.
You can create checkpoints without putting fast travel points.
Pretty unbelievable.
Right. So attempt number 2, and almost certainly failure. Like, I can't really dash as far as I'd like. Because I really would like to be able to dash quite further than I am. Now, I would argue they did not really move a whole landfill. They moved what looks like a top layer of a junkyard at most. See if that guy will fight on our side effectively. So move out of the way and see if we can grab some more health. That worked out somewhat well. I'm having trouble. Again. Alright, take control of that guy. You totally need some shield. Like, you cannot seize people in most of these conflicts. You can't take control of the enemies in most of these conflicts because you don't have any kind of armor, you don't have any kind of shield. And while I do have, I guess, and this time enemies aren't spawning in this area, so I guess they decided not to. I wonder if it's kind of random. It might be random. Lag, lag, lag. 3 lags always when running.
They moved the whole landfill here in the middle of New York.
There's basically no way to change.
Pretty unbelievable.
having a real hard time getting these guys' health down. And he must be like such a powerful guy that I can't even control him, because like they definitely were not responding to any of that. So we've got a nice layout here of health. Notice how jumping and flying not helping any. You go. See, there's the penalty there. As soon as you try to take something over, it doesn't work. And yeah, I could increase my seize time, but it's not going to help enough. Seriously. Like, I don't think there's any health that I can even grab here. I think we are in such a bad position. So you can't go for that second shot. I need the charge gun, and I can't craft a charge gun unless I've just somehow picked up enough items, or we go crazy right now. Like, we could look at that. It might be the case that we could go crazy right now. What do we need? We need exactly, well, 4,700 and some change in one corrupted sample to use that. Where that's just not going to work. So we have no idea as far as construction. So we're going to have to try a different loadout here. And this is probably going to turn into a nightmare. Change the pierce from doing 37% damage while aiming down to the grip. And the grip, last time we used it, barely did anything. Alright, so we have damage after kill 27%, that's not super helpful. Ammo cost 10%, accuracy 13%, that's something we can't really use. And increased rate of fire times 3, maybe. Headshot damage is not something where you really can do damage while low health, maybe. Damage 20% in total. Damage against enemy armor 95%. That might be better. Ammo cost when levitating, no. Meanwhile, over here we have a energy evade cost 18% versus an evade cost of 16%, so we can get rid of that. Versus one of 11%, we can get rid of that. Launch energy costs 20%. Well, I'm using launch more than I'm using the recovery. And C speed is not helpful enough, so energy recovery speed plus 31% health. So let's take a moment. Do I think that is better than the Pierce? We'll see. I kind of don't think it is. And then you are just back to this. Something hit me then. How something hit me, I don't know. But something did hit me. Interesting, we didn't get the 3 lags that time. I guess I wasn't moving fast enough.
Moved the whole landfill here in the middle of New York, and nobody saw a thing. Pretty unbelievable.
There's the 3 lags in the middle of the fight. I could have been using the wrong gun at this point. That might be part of my problem. Yeah, this oddly does feel a little bit easier, but is that because the game has taken pity on me, or is that because the game is I've been playing just incredibly badly? If I really have just been playing incredibly badly, that's gonna suck. See, I'm even managing to kind of avoid these guys. Which is strange to say the least.
We should check that lab.
I guess if worse comes to worse, the suggestion here is to change your loadout and go back to your main gun. I felt like the Pierce was doing a much better job in most scenarios, but I guess I'm wrong about that. I'm not sure. Like, what's the logic here of bringing the entire top level of a junkyard / dump to a facility? If the magical projector in any way is affected by the location and not affected by the items that are in the location, that this would be a complete waste of time. There's a whole section up here. So maybe I could have run up here? I'm just gonna try and dash. Things are just getting broken around me based on my dash attack. I'm not hitting them or anything, I'm just around it. Clearly your area of effect of that is way too high. And that just causes more physics to have to be used. And that just causes more GPU processing power to be used. As far as I know, physics does not run on a CPU well at all. So if you do have a lot of physics objects, or objects using physics, one is spelled with an X at the end, which is an NVIDIA copyright. The other is physics, as in the science. TV's in the, well, little lights in the corner for no reason. I think we found everything here that there is to find. So much stuff. So much stuff. And yeah, the tradition of dying 3 times until the game takes pity on you, and then winning and it not being satisfactory continues. I swear, I don't think I'm this bad of a game player. I will fully admit I'm not a esports first-person shooter type game player. It's not what I'm trying to be, certainly. But I do know and have a decent lifetime's worth of experience of playing first-person shooters, and this does seem harder than I'd like it to be. And I totally would have played this on easy had I been given a choice to select that as an option. And what's the point of reconstructing a dump and then putting an office right next to it? Unless this was an office that actually existed then. Another one of these.
Effective immediately. I'm setting up a new department. Dimensional research in the research sector. Transferring the slide projector there. That's where my focus will be now. The ordinary site remains as is. We'll be back to... I don't know when.
Darling took the projector to the research sector. He dedicated a whole area to it, so he knew it was important. Dimensional research. That's where we go next.
And it sounds like a new group of enemies are outside. And we have all kinds of new loadout things that we just picked up. Let's see. We still need the craft charge more than anything else. And that's going to be a hard thing to accomplish. This is 9% energy versus 15% energy. This is 11% launch energy cost versus 20% launch energy cost. So where we are now shows that there's one area on the other side of the turntable, and well, yes, there's a fight happening through here. Is there a reason that I really need to fight these guys though? Like, seriously, can I not just escape? So the question is, are the doors blocked, or can I just walk through the door? Because if I can just walk through the door, grinding it out and fighting this guy is not something I particularly care to do. I'm trying to move the main story along, and grinding only gets you so far. Yeah, you can just leave. And we'll just run into some lag. I bet we run into 3 lags when we walk right about here. Interesting. Are we going the right direction? I think we are. Yeah, I don't feel like there's another way through this. Or that there would have been another exit out of the dump area. No, I think there actually was an exit out in the dump area. So, lag. So we probably do need to take on this fight area. Although, I'll give it one chance. And if it decides to give me trouble, I will then just fast travel to the next location. The fact that you can do this kind of shenanigans definitely shows that there's a system, that a better system is needed here, where you could choose not to fight things if you wished. It's so laggy. I don't think I'm running out of hard drive space or anything. Although, in all fairness, this is taking a lot of hard drive space. I had kind of perfect timing when I bought a new SSD and was able to use my old SSD as a system to just put recordings on. And honestly, having a separate location, a separate SSD to record video on anyways would cause a lot of the lagging problems that I ran into before when I'd fill up my original C drive. That just wouldn't happen anymore. So yeah, there is a shortcut here worth taking. The bigger question is there some kind of pickup that I missed? I don't think so. Yeah, when you fill up your C drive that has your operating system on it and your recording software and the game and everything else on it, running out of space becomes a much bigger issue. Alright, so I want to open that section over there, which is the Sterling AWE. And so I'm wondering if I can just press the button here and do that. No. So now I'm at the turntable, and I don't really have an arrow telling me where to go. So can't just break that. Feels like we're gonna have to come back to this area. There's nothing in the ground over here that would go to the Sterling AWE area. So instead they just have me traveling, I guess it's a slightly shorter distance to this. Alright. So we have 4 abilities. What could we improve? Shield barrier. When the shield is released, debris shield projects debris to nearby enemies. I think we need that more than we would need Grand Slam or the increased duration of C's, although I would like to know what that actually does, or the ability to launch humans, or just an increase in energy in general. I would like an increase in energy. It's a little surprising. So do I spend 3 on shield barrage and make shield actually useful, or do I do energy? I think I do energy first because I'm so short on that. As for astral constructions, we are still short on corrupted samples and short on just materials in general. And board consignments, we haven't done any of those, and we probably won't do any of the board, not consignments, but countermeasures. I'm gonna fast travel to the main area first so I can try the new outfit. And then I want to also look at the missions, because like that fridge mission, we should be able to do that, and yet I'm not sure we really can. So clear the clog is in maintenance. We're probably never doing that. This is dimensional research. That's the main story. This is in, I don't even remember what section this is in. Research. It's in a different research section, so we might run into that at some point. The fridge duty is in the containment area, which we're not going there. And this is in maintenance. And where was this? This was in research, mirror testing. Okay. So main mission is finish Tango. Outfits, we now have candidate P7, which we could wear. I guess we can try that. And now fast travel back to research, to where we're supposed to be going. It wants me, let's see, there's definitely an area we didn't access in parapsychology, which I don't think I care enough to go and look for. Ritual division, I don't think is the closest. I think central research is probably the closest fast travel location. And I don't know, in any game when you have fast travel should be the easy way for people who are lazy, not the way for people who want to go by default. I feel like, particularly in this area, you would have to go by default using fast travel, because you would have walked to so much menu, like so much of the menu to get to get to this point, and it would have just been random fights for no reason. Luck and probability. So where do we want to go down? Do we want to go... Like, I know in this area in particular there is that area down, and we would have the ability to fly now, so that plays a much better role during this section. Am I going in the right place though, or am I doing a side mission doing this? It would definitely be easier to float down this direction also. So I'm hoping this is a connector to dimensional research, and this isn't putting me in a area that's going in the absolute wrong direction. Although even if this is taking me in the absolute wrong direction, it kind of doesn't matter. But we really haven't gotten any defense or increase in armor, so running into mold creatures still will be the same issue that we ran into before. The only slight difference is we now fight. These are guys who are on our side. Interesting. How did they get down here? When did they get down here? Over here was just a collectible.
Careful in there, ma'am. Area's under quarantine. I wouldn't go in there without talking to Underhill first. Even if you have, I still wouldn't go in.
So,
excuse me.
Is this Marshall?
Are you lost?
Or is this a whole new character? A whole nother character that you potentially would not have seen at all? That is crazy. And a whole section that you could easily miss? Let's talk to her.
Do you normally barge into people's private workspaces?
She clearly doesn't know who she's talking to.
Shouldn't you be in a safe room?
Why? Because of those hiss things the Rangers keep going on about. Haven't you people sorted that out yet? The situation down here could spell doom for the Bureau.
You mean this mold?
Correct. Perhaps you could help me.
So we're just going a whole side quest
made the environment
here.
far too dangerous for me to fetch them myself.
Really? Mold samples? I thought this could spell doom.
It could, and it will, whoever you are. The mold is spreading. We need to find the source before it spreads too far.
And these samples will do that?
No. Samples of 5 unique strains, when blended properly, will allow you to travel deeper into the pit, where I've pinpointed the approximate location of the source of the mold.
Okay. So what do these samples look like?
Similar to the one on my table there. I've made a list of the samples.
The glowing thing?
Here. You'll find them throughout the threshold.
I'll take a look. My name's Jesse, by the way.
I'm sure it is.
So we've moved old growth forward, and we can have these conversations with her, I guess.
Have you worked with Emily Pope?
Our paths have crossed. Darling arranged for us to have a coffee. A meeting of the minds, he called it. She's talented. I can certainly see her doing well here.
I feel like there's a but coming.
But she's drunk a bit too much of the Bureau's proverbial Kool-Aid. She shouldn't be afraid to forge ahead on her own. Science is skepticism. Everything must be questioned before the truth can emerge.
So
pointless conversation, pretty much.
If you insist on clinging to such outdated hierarchies, then yes. However, I would argue that our fields are too dissimilar for one to manage the other. Of course, Darling would much prefer to find his own miracle solution to the Bureau's fungal frustrations. He always needs to be the hero.
That might be slightly useful backstory.
So tell me again how you came to work at the Bureau?
Well, like I said, I was brought in as a special advisor. A temporary position, you see.
She didn't say that.
Although that's not the whole truth. I was employed here for a time, straight out of university. After a decade of admittedly fascinating work in threshold research and regulation, I began to chafe under the bureaucracy. I needed a change. Not that academia was so different.
And then the mold happened.
About 4 months ago, yes. Since my departure from the Bureau, they hadn't been able to find my equal in threshold analysis. Darling and I had kept in touch over the years, meeting at conferences and the like. He called me, and I booked a flight.
You send secret
I've never been able to say no to
scientists
alien bias
to conferences? I guess you
had to
could,
leave my post in
under
the
a
middle of
cover
term, but
story.
So be it.
So she's a professor. That explains a lot.
The mold seems to be having some weird effects on things.
Indeed. Even people are susceptible. The fungus grows rapidly within the chest cavity, killing the host. Luckily, one must ingest the stalks to become infected.
Don't eat the mold. Okay.
We've always cremated the infected bodies after autopsy, but I believe there may be another stage of maturity. A blooming, if you will.
I never thought the word blooming would sound so horrible.
I never thought internal dialogue would be so bad.
Thanks for the information.
This
My
is why
pleasure.
you don't see internal dialogue. So we're going to be looking for these mold things, I guess. And see, this is a threshold side quest that I think is taking me probably in the wrong direction. But we might as well do it. So let's set that as what? Grow near a fresh corpse. These are like items
This work won't finish itself.
that I don't even know where. It's kind of a hidden thing, so it might not be worth even going through this.
It smells so sweet down here. Suddenly I'm really hungry. I wonder how this mold tastes.
Alright. So clearly the spin does not work as well. It's not like the main gun works too well either, though. They both kind of suck against these enemies. Last time we were here, we struggled. We struggled against these kind of enemies. Now I think I could probably throw more items and...
Are those people?
Come on. Where's the guy? Wow. 2 tosses still not good enough to kill people. It's really distracting having so much dialogue in the top left of the screen. I'm half interested in changing the quest just to get rid of that. Alright, so the trick in this will be don't get killed and don't fall to your death. Where is that? Is this area perhaps Like, I don't even know where this is going to checkpoint me. I wouldn't be surprised if this checkpoints me right back to where I was before. Yeah, well, forget that mission for a moment. Let's see. We want to go a different direction. And luck and probability is the opposite direction, so it's got to be somewhere over here. This would take you to parapsychology, which also is kind of the opposite direction we want to go. The HRA lab would be about the main area we'd want to go. And the map there doesn't really help. Now that we can fly, we could potentially get really high up, but I don't know how much that's going to help anything. Yeah, I just went kind of full circle there. I don't think I can move past this part. So I'm gonna have to fight these guys if I want to go that direction. And almost certainly that is the direction I need to go. So, worst case scenario. It would be nice if Polaris pointed me in the direction I need to go more often. It doesn't seem like it can. Like, unless the left bump, holding the left bump or the right bump does that, and I'm just not realizing that that's the case. This was a direction. This is like the elevator. We can go there. And the ritual division is blocked. Was there was a way to get to the ritual division. But this shortcut is just like permanently blocked, it seems. I was gonna take control of that guy, but I didn't move fast enough. So it seems like it's just him. Launch is pretty slow. And at any point this guy could decide to just unload on me with with his machine gun. There we go. I'm getting more damage done to me than what I collected. just wait for these guys' life to go down, and then they should die, and then they should turn into dust. This is dimensional research. Alright, we found the right way to go for the main story. Odd that the alarm for the metal detector A starts the door opening and B goes off when detecting metal. I would think the one thing that this gun in particular would not be would be metal.
Possibly changing labyrinth. Can never pass through. Dimensional research. Every measure of security.
So we get another hotline video. Wow, now we have a completely different looking environment too. Why are we so late into the game seeing this? I mean, this doesn't look like just the Oceanfront Hotel.
Broken? How many dead ends can this place have? We need to find Ati.
So we're gonna have to go back to the maintenance section, I guess. I mean, that doesn't look too broken. There's a lot of cigarette machines and iconic objects that you wouldn't see otherwise. That's the way back. I'm just randomly walking around. I've heard people complain that some of the puzzles feel like you just kind of walk around until you solve it. This is a prime example of that, where yeah, it is just walking around until you solve the puzzle. But you can see the building, the furniture is getting knocked over more and more. It feels like we're going in circles now. Yeah. So yeah, it doesn't seem like you can actually make it through here without going to the maintenance janitor's office. And let's see. This is called the ashtray maze, which probably is a hint as far as how you solve the maze. I think the area in the top left of this map we may never ever see. Clearly we've got to do the stuff on the right side of the map. But if we look at the fast travel and look at the other areas, there's just that nostalgic department that's on the far right, the furthest right part in the executive office, which is almost certainly the final boss fight. For maintenance, we're going to the janitor's office, but I don't think that's going to push us all the way to the left where the Blackrock Quarry is, so that we could fly up there and find that collectible. Nor am I 100% certain that it would get us down to where the lower right question marks are. So I wouldn't be surprised if we don't see any of that either. We were in the research division and we chose not to do the mold quests. Almost certainly we will have to do the mold quest eventually, because they'll have some hallway that is just infected with the mold. But it's weird, to say the least, that you could skip over what feels like a major part of the section of the gameplay and really not do anything to help that. I'm also kind of skipping over the Percepticon quest, which seems like something I should do. And the Sterling AWE area, which is the question marks in the middle of the map for containment. And that's 1, 2, 3, 4 floors. I don't think there are any other floors. We are still trying to get enough points where we can build the charge gun, which I'm hoping is a big game changer. And I could abandon some of these countermeasures, but they're all executive incursion countermeasures, and I think they're just all going to be executive incursion countermeasures for some weird reason. Meanwhile, we have this gun that is giving us items. We're getting more mods, and the more mods are giving us more stuff, but we really are just getting into a looter shooter style mentality. Again, this game feels like they at the last second abandoned the idea of microtransactions, but they were totally setting up to have microtransactions in this. There's no reason that this should have been in a game like this if it was not mandated by some greedy executive at some publishing at the behest of their publisher, or maybe the top management at the developer. I don't even really know who to blame, but there clearly was some greed in the decisions that were made there. We have C speed level 3 versus C speed plus 70, so we can get rid of that. And that's pretty much it. We're still trying to collect these things. We've seen a clearance level 9, but I wouldn't be surprised if actually there's only clearance level 6. I'm surprised that there even is a clearance level 6. We could try to do this quest and clear the clog while we're in maintenance. I also think that these guys are in maintenance, aren't they? They're all in maintenance in different parts, so there's that side mission maybe would get done, maybe wouldn't. So we could think about doing those, but more than likely I'm just trying to push the main story forward. Like, I don't even care about these side stories like this at this point, because this game is just dragging on so much. Meanwhile, speaking of dragging on, there's just an ever increasing amount of dialogue and text here. Text that's unimportant. I really have to question how you can pay people to write this stuff. My only guess is you had a writer, and because you had a writer, there was a certain number of things you asked him to write, and just to keep him employed and keep him busy. Because writers, I guess their job is pretty separate from game development, and so if you want to keep them working all the way from the beginning of development, say 2 years before, 4 to 6 years before you release the game, to potentially all the way to the point where it's released, you would have to have them write a bunch of stuff. Typically writers get hired as contract workers, and they're not hired until a year before it's released, maybe 2 years before it's released. And yeah, I just do not put any value on this text stuff. If you can't write this so that a voice actor voices it, if you can't tell it environmentally with the placement of objects or with the placement of people, I don't care. I don't need a companion book or a companion instruction manual for a AAA adult game like this. And there's way more text here than what you would have ever gotten for like an NES game instruction manual. And none of it's very in depth, which Skyrim at least had that going for it. Like, each book was at least a dozen pages, it felt like, so if you did want to get into it, you would actually be able to enjoy it more than reading what often here is 3/4 of a page, half a page of text that is so unconnected to everything else. And some of the Skyrim books were different volumes, so you'd have like volume 1 of a story and then volume 2 and volume 3. So you could actually settle down and have a reading experience, where in this game you would have had to either have a save file that has all the collectibles so you could read everything at once, or collect all the collectibles and then read everything. Neither of those are particularly intriguing options. I'm a little surprised that there wasn't more advertisement for this game, because you could have certainly had sections and scenes of the game shown as trailers, as teasers, but that's not even what they showed at E3. They barely showed any of the mystery and the story stuff, and mostly showed the flying around fighting the Hiss gameplay stuff, which is pretty much the worst part. Interesting. Nothing stops the music from playing. We never really got an explanation as to who is watching, by the way. Who knows if that's copyrighted music, by the way. Alright, well, that's going to be it for this recording. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want a friend to follow me on any social media sites, there's a whole bunch of links down below in the description box. And if you want to support me even further, there's a link to Patreon, or you can friend me on Steam and gift me a game off my wishlist. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening. Okay, for the live stream, I'm going to take maybe an hour break, and then we'll come back and play some more.